What is the strangest thing you've witnessed someone do in public? I saw a dude with a suitcase, completely naked, entering our train. His facial expressions were normal. He looked concerned and stared at his phone the entire time until I had to get out. Right in front of my house, a couple of guys stopped their car, left it in the middle of the street, and began a fist fight. Then after a couple of minutes of each of them throwing more or less ineffectual punches, they both stopped and got back in the car and drove away. It's that last part that makes it so strange. If an argument had proceeded to blows, then I wouldn't just get back in the car with the other guy as if nothing ever happened. I was stopped at a red light and there was a lady in the car next to me. She was having really sporadic head movements. Not the head bob dancing type, but just kinda crazy. After like 10-15 seconds of this, her neck went limp and her head just hung forward. The light turned green and I hesitated a moment, wondering if she needed medical care, and was about to pull in front of her to check on her when her head abruptly jerked back up and she drove off without hesitation. Sounds like she was nodding out on opioids. I moved to a town which had a bit of a bad reputation. The first thing I saw when I was bringing boxes in was a man walking down the street with a bunch of plastic bags on fire. He was holding it like a lantern and was so casual about it despite flaming plastic dripping onto him. Actually like the town though. It's got character. A woman lift her skirt, squat and pee on the sidewalk in front of a bus stop. Middle of the day, high-end shopping center, busy intersection. A young couple trying to transport a couch on Vancouver's SkyTrain late at night. Moving while broke is like that sometimes. An old dude put down his suitcase and started doing a weird interpretive dance. The worst part is that this was in a crowd of hundreds of people and he was staring me down specifically with a creepy smile. I was a couple hundred feet away and when I looked back, there he was. Smiling. Dancing. Eyes locked onto me. At Bonnaroo I saw a guy with his pants down, Rick out, jerking off and staring at Paul McCartney's end of show fireworks. Then he was showing his Rick to some girls and a guy came up and punched him in the back of head, where he then started to hump the ground for a few seconds, then remained motionless, then humped the ground again. Security came and picked him up then. That was wild to watch. Caught a guy jerking it in a bookstore. Guy in a mall pulled down his pants, squatted, pooped in a planter box, pulled his pants back up and walked off. I saw a guy mowing the middle of a busy street. No grass. At noon. I saw a woman on the GO train pull out an entire raw white onion from her purse, then proceed to eat it like an apple as if it were nothing. She was tearing up and didn't seem to be enjoying it much. I was on the bus heading to grad school one afternoon when this lady gets on the bus, her shirt covered in an uncounted reddish brown substance that was on her shirt and caked around her mouth and face. She finds a seat towards the back of the bus, across from where I was sitting, and pulls from a paper bag a half-eaten rotisserie chicken covered in what either looked like raspberry jelly. She then reaches into her pants and starts smearing what I can only assume to be her menstrual blood over the chicken as she then proceeds to take a bite from the chicken and lick her fingers clean. I was visiting Leicester, then I saw a drunk walk out of a pub, trousers by his ankles. Beer in hand, this guy looked around whilst peeing, hands free. That scarred me as a child. I watched a woman walk into Chipotle, wash her hands for a solid 5 minutes under the Sprite in the soda fountain, and then fill up a trash bag fully with the Sprite and walk out with it. I wrestled in high school and was down about 20 pounds for a tournament. We were walking back to the hotel after weigh-ins and my pants kept falling down, as I forgot a belt. One of my buddy's dads asked me if I needed a belt, and I said sure do, thinking it was a joke, or maybe he had an extra one in the hotel. He proceeds to take off his belt, give it to me, pulls a second belt out of his front pocket, and puts it on. No idea why he had two identical leather belts with him that day, but I appreciated it. On a high school field trip we went to DC and a man was staring at the school bus while jerking off. Once saw a man unicycling through a mall parking lot with groceries bags in each hand. During a snowstorm. No one ever believes me. They don't believe me when I first tell them and assume I said bicycle. They really don't believe me when I correct them and say, no. Unicycle. One wheel. I wouldn't have bothered telling you this if there had been 2 wheels. Once saw a man standing next to an extremely expensive looking home jump head first into a hedge, pull himself out, look at the hedge, and jump back in head first. He continued to do this for a while until someone nearby asked him if he were okay, to which he responded with, "Don't worry, this is my hedge, I'm just bored." Still to this day I respect his casual not giving a duck vibe. Standing in line in a store at the mall when I hear a weird sound from a woman's large tote bag that is also slightly moving. Could swear I heard a quack. Couldn't be though, except it was. She saw me looking at her bag confused, so opened it and showed me that she had half a dozen ducklings in there. She said she had errands to run and couldn't leave them in the car because of the heat. Made sense, but I think carrying around half a dozen baby ducks in a bag is pretty strange. We saw a guy take a Big Mac steamy right on the beach. Lifeguards were screaming at him and the local police took him away. When I lived in Fresno, California, I lived next to a liquor store that tweakers sometimes hung out at. Outside the occasional met head talking to imaginary friends, there was one guy that would walk around the parking lot collecting rocks. The best part was when he saw my Samoan friend and put his fist up and shouted, "Black power." He was white. LOL. Woman in an immaculate business suit chasing a chicken down the street. Years ago I used to work doors as a bouncer. Had one bloke walk up the road towards me well into his cups. One step sideways for every step forward, you know what I mean. Spot the pub, spot me, and do the old straight on march that every bloke does when they are trying to hide their intox level. Marches up to a hand's breadth away from me, stares over my shoulder at the door. "Evening, sir," I say. No response. "Not tonight, sir," I say. He finally looks at me, slurs something like, "Why not?" I state the obvious. He ain't happy with that. Goes on a full minute tirade on how the world was against him, that every bouncer he's met tonight has been a count, and that I was knocking him back cause he was Corey. Aboriginal. For Eusebius Reardon. As he's ranting, he's shrugging out of his clothes, and by the time he's done, he's stark bloody naked on one of the busiest streets in the city. He then holds a finger up, like a one moment kinda gesture. Then projectile vomits on his clothes whilst trying to maintain eye contact with me. Finishes, looks back at me, gives me the sup upwards nod, then strolls down the street stark naked. Reversal. The best place for us as teens on a limited budget was to visit buffet restaurants and stuff as much pizza in our faces as we could. Our favorite place took a long time to clear tables, so we would just move tables after we got seconds. This one time, we finished our first plates, went to the buffet and went straight to the second table. An older couple sat down by our first table while we were getting our seconds. We finished, and as we walked by our first table, I grabbed some food off my original plate, munched on it, and looked at the lady. She was frozen in mid-cringe, horrified. Her eyes were massive. Her mouth was at an odd angle. And she just glared at me. It didn't strike me until after I left that she had no idea that was my plate and just assumed that I was a child monster living on the streets eating other people's slobbery leftovers. I was in a bathroom stall the other day when a little boy, maybe 6-7 years old, goes in the stall beside me. He sits on the toilet and starts humming some made up tune. That was already a little funny but nothing uncommon. Then he starts aggressively humming louder and louder. It gets to the point where it's almost just shrieking, and then he suddenly stops because he's out of breath. 2 seconds later I hear a plop in the toilet and he then begins singing hallelujah. Hallelujah. I just pooped in the toilet and repeats this a few times. I was almost passing out from trying to hide my laughter. That's all for today's video. Hope you guys liked it. If you liked the video, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, the best thing you can do is simply watch the videos. But if you really want to see the channel thrive, Subscribe, like, comment, add to favorites, add to playlist, and share with friends. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Reddit and Insta. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you with tomorrow's upload.